She never expected to come face to face with her millionaire CEO ex-husband just 2 years after divorce because her twins needed emergency bone marrow transplant. He's their father. The genetic markers suggest he's their best hope. Olivia clutched the phone, knuckles white against the plastic. Anyone but him, she whispered, her voice breaking. Please, there has to be someone else. I'm sorry, Olivia. Without a direct family match, their chances drop significantly. The world tilted sideways as she hung up. 7-year-old twins, Elijah and Emma, smiled at her from the framed photo on her desk, their faces thin but brave, their eyes bright despite everything they'd endured. The same eyes as their father, the same father who had walked out of their penthouse 2 years ago with words that still cut like glass. I didn't sign up for a lifetime of hospitals and medical bills. I need someone whole by my side. That's what Dominic Reed had said when he left her after her diagnosis. Before he knew she was carrying his children. Before those children inherited the same condition. Before they became so ill that only his bone marrow could save them. Have you ever had to beg for help from the person who shattered your heart? Have you ever had to swallow every ounce of pride and pain to save someone you love? This is the story of a woman forced to face her past to secure her children's future, and the man who must confront the consequences of his greatest mistake. 3 days later, Olivia stood in the gleaming headquarters of Reed Enterprises, watching the man she once loved examine photos of the children he never knew existed. Why tell me now? Dominic asked coldly, his fingers tracing the edge of a medical file. Money? They're dying, Dominic. Olivia said, her voice steady despite the earthquake inside her. The same genetic condition I have has manifested more aggressively in them. They need bone marrow transplants. And you need a donor, he concluded, his analytical mind cutting straight to the core. That's why you're here. Not to tell me I'm a father, but because you need something. Thought. They need something, she corrected, refusing to back down from his accusatory tone. A compatible donor. Their oncologist believes you're the best possible match. Dominic sat down, fingers steepled as though evaluating a business proposal. You've hidden my children from me for 7 years, and now you expect me to undergo a medical procedure for them. I expect nothing from you, she replied evenly. Your track record made your position on illness quite clear. I'm simply presenting you with the facts. You have 2 children, they're critically ill, and you could save their lives. If you believe in the power of redemption and second chances, or if you've ever wondered whether people can truly change, stay with me for this remarkable journey of forgiveness and healing. Like this video if you've ever had to swallow your pride to protect someone you love. The call came on a Tuesday. Olivia Reed was reviewing research samples in her lab when her cell vibrated against the metal desk, the hospital's number lighting up the screen. Dr. Reed, she answered, instantly alert. Olivia, it's Dr. Kaplan. The twins' latest panels came back. We need to discuss treatment options immediately. Her heart ceased. How bad? Both of them have progressed to stage 3. We've exhausted standard protocols. They need transplants soon. The world tilted as Olivia gripped the edge of her desk. For 2 years, she'd fought this battle alone, watching her beautiful twins grow weaker while she exhausted every medical option available. What about the donor registry? She asked, already knowing the answer. Nothing matches closely enough. We need direct family, Olivia. The closest match would be... Don't say it, she interrupted, a cold dread washing over her. Anyone but him. He's their father. The genetic markers suggest he's their best hope. Olivia closed her eyes. Memories flooding back of the last time she'd seen Dominic Reed, standing in their penthouse doorway, his words cutting through her like glass. I didn't sign up for a lifetime of hospitals and medical bills. I need someone whole by my side. 2 years had passed since her brilliant, ruthless ex-husband had walked away from their marriage when her own diagnosis came through. He never knew she was carrying his children when he left, never knew about the twins who would inherit her genetic condition, never bothered to look back at the wreckage he'd left behind. Now fate had twisted everything into a cruel knot. The man who couldn't stand illness was the only one who could save her children's lives. I'll find him, she finally said, her voice steadier than her heart. But I need you to prepare the paperwork. He isn't exactly the charitable type. After hanging up, Olivia stared at the photo on her desk. 7-year-old Elijah and Emma, their faces thin but smiling. Their eyes, his eyes bright despite everything they'd endured. She picked up her phone again and dialed a number she promised herself she'd never use. Reed Enterprises, a crisp voice answered. This is Dr. Olivia Reed. I need to speak with Dominic. I'm sorry, Mr. Reed doesn't take unscheduled calls. May I ask what this is regarding? Olivia took a deep breath. Tell him it's about his children. The executive floor of Reed Enterprises occupied the top 3 stories of a gleaming downtown skyscraper, a perfect symbol of Dominic Reed's meteoric rise from talented programmer to tech industry titan. At 39, he built a $4.2 billion company from scratch, turning his artificial intelligence innovations into the backbone of modern medical diagnostics. The irony wasn't lost on Olivia as the elevator doors opened onto the reception area where a sleek sign displayed the company motto, "Healing through Innovation." Dr. Reed. The receptionist greeted her with practiced warmth. Mr. Reed will see you in his office. Following the young woman down a corridor, lined with awards and recognitions, Olivia felt oddly calm. The shock had worn off during the drive over, replaced by the cold determination that had carried her through medical school, through her diagnosis, through childbirth, and countless nights in hospital rooms with her twins. The receptionist knocked once on a massive door before opening it. "Dr. Reed is here, sir." Dominic Reed stood at the window, his back to the door, a silhouette against the city skyline. Even after 2 years, Olivia recognized the set of his shoulders, the way he clasped his hands behind his back when deep in thought. "That will be all, Vanessa," he said without turning. When the door closed, silence filled the room. Olivia used the moment to steel herself against the sight of him, but when he finally turned, she wasn't prepared for the jolt of recognition or the unfamiliar lines that stress had carved around his eyes. "Children," he said finally. "Plural." "Twins," she confirmed. "Elijah and Emma. They're 7. Thanks for watching." Understanding dawned in his expression as he calculated the timeline. "You were pregnant when I left." 4 weeks. "I didn't know until after the divorce papers came." He moved to his desk, a massive slab of black glass atop steel supports. "Why tell me now? Money?" The cold dismissal nearly broke her composure. "They're dying, Dominic. The same genetic condition I have has manifested more aggressively in them. They need bone marrow transplants. And you need a donor," he concluded, his analytical mind cutting straight to the core. "That's why you're here. Not to tell me I'm a father, but because you need something." "Bye." "They need something," Olivia corrected, refusing to back down from his accusatory tone. "A compatible donor. Their oncologist believes you're the best possible match." Dominic sat down, fingers steepled as though evaluating a business proposal. "You've hidden my children from me for 7 years, and now you expect me to undergo a medical procedure for them." "I expect nothing from you," she replied evenly. "Your track record made your position on illness quite clear. I'm simply presenting you with the facts. You have 2 children. They're critically ill, and you could save their lives. I want proof they're mine." "Fine. I've brought their medical files. DNA confirmation can be arranged." She placed a folder on his desk. "But looking at them would be enough. They have your eyes. Elijah has your analytical mind. Emma has your stubbornness." Dominic opened the folder, his expression unreadable as he studied the medical charts and photos. For a moment, Olivia glimpsed something soften in his face, the same expression she'd once loved, before ambition and fear had hardened him. "I'm getting married next month," he said suddenly, still looking at the photos. "Victoria Lawrence. Her father sits on the board of Meridian Health Systems." The casual revelation stung more than it should have. Of course he'd moved on with someone strategically chosen to advance his empire. "Congratulations," Olivia said flatly. "I'm not here to complicate your life. This isn't about us. This is about 2 children who need help only you can provide." "I'll need to verify everything," he said, closing the folder. "I assume time is a factor?" "Weeks, not months." He nodded once. "I'll have my doctor contact their specialist tomorrow. In the meantime, I want a full legal briefing on my rights and responsibilities in this situation." "They don't know about you," Olivia said quickly. "To them, their father has been away building his company. I never told them you left because of my diagnosis." Something flickered in his eyes, guilt, perhaps, or surprise at her discretion. "Why protect me?" "I wasn't protecting you. I was protecting them from feeling unwanted." She stood, having said what she came to say. "They're at Lakeside Children's Hospital. The doctor's contact information is in the file. Whatever you decide, please don't make them wait too long." As she turned to leave, his voice stopped her. "What about you, Liv? How are you managing?" The unexpected question and the use of her old nickname caught her off guard. I'm in remission, managing the research department at Northside Medical. The twins are my priority. He nodded, as though filing away the information. I'll be in touch. Soon. Walking out of Reed Enterprises felt like emerging from a time capsule. The Dominic she'd loved, brilliant, driven, occasionally tender, was still visible beneath the corporate armor, but the man he'd become was a stranger to her now. Back in her car, Olivia finally allowed herself a moment of weakness, pressing her forehead against the steering wheel as tears came. The past she'd carefully walled away had broken through in the space of one conversation, bringing with it all the pain she'd thought long buried. But there was no time for old wounds. Her children needed her to be strong, practical, focused. Everything else, including the unexpected ache of seeing Dominic again, would have to wait. Would you search for the person who abandoned you if they were the only one who could save your child? The choice Olivia faces is one no parent should have to make. But sometimes our greatest trials lead to unexpected healing. 3 days later, Olivia was helping Emma adjust her hospital bed when a commotion in the hallway drew her attention. Nurses were clustering at the station, their voices hushed but excited. "Mom, who are all those people?" Emma asked, her thin face curious beneath her colorful headscarf. Before Olivia could answer, Dr. Kaplan appeared in the doorway, looking slightly flustered. "Olivia, could I speak with you?" In the hallway, she found the answer to Emma's question. Dominic stood with a small entourage, his chief counsel, his personal physician, and a woman Olivia instantly recognized from society pages as Victoria Lawrence, elegantly dressed and looking distinctly uncomfortable in the pediatric oncology ward. "He's been screened," Dr. Kaplan said quietly. "He's a perfect match for both of them, better than we could have hoped for." "Has he agreed to donate?" "Yes, but he wants to meet them first. He's been quite insistent." Olivia felt a surge of both relief and apprehension. "Did you explain the situation? That they don't know he's their father?" "Yes, he says he'll respect that for now, but he won't be treated as an anonymous donor." Taking a deep breath, Olivia approached the group. Dominic stepped forward, his expensive suit out of place among the cartoon wall murals. "Thank you for coming," she said, professional courtesy masking the tumult beneath. "We need to talk before I meet them," Dominic replied. He turned to his companions. "Give us a moment." When they were alone in a small consultation room, he sat across from her, his posture rigid. "You were right. The DNA test confirmed it. I know my children's father, Dominic." "Our children," he corrected, the words sounding strange from his lips. "I'm still processing what that means." "It doesn't have to mean anything beyond today," she said carefully. "I'm grateful for your willingness to donate, but I don't expect—" "Stop," he interrupted. "I abandoned you when you got sick. I've had 3 days to confront that reality, and it's not a comfortable one. But these children, my children, shouldn't pay the price for my failings." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want to know them, not just as a donor, but as—" he hesitated, "as someone in their lives." Olivia felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crack. "You're getting married, starting a new life. The twins have been through enough without adding complexity they can't understand. Number 4. Victoria and I have discussed it." His expression revealed nothing of that conversation. "This changes things, but it doesn't change my responsibility to Elijah and Emma. Your responsibility 2 years ago was to stand by your wife in sickness and in health," Olivia said, unable to keep the bitterness from her voice. "Forgive me if I question your newfound sense of duty." "I deserve that," he acknowledged, surprising her. "I was terrified when you got sick, not just of losing you, but of being helpless. I've spent my life controlling outcomes, building systems that solve problems. Your diagnosis was a problem I couldn't solve, and I ran from it like a coward." The raw honesty in his admission caught her off guard. This wasn't the calculated, emotionless exit he'd made 2 years ago. "The twins are fragile," she said after a moment. "Not just physically. They trust people who show up consistently. If you enter their lives, it can't be temporary." "I understand." He held her gaze steadily. "I'd like to meet them now, if that's possible." Olivia nodded, gathering her composure. "They're sharing a room. Elijah might be sleeping. His medications make him drowsy. Emma never stops asking questions." "They know someone is coming to help them?" "Yes, a special donor who matches them perfectly. That's all they need to know for now." As they walked toward the children's room, Olivia felt an unexpected sense of worlds colliding, her past and present merging in ways she'd never anticipated. The life she'd built without Dominic had been hard but purposeful. Now his presence threatened to unravel everything, not least her own carefully guarded heart. Emma was sitting up in bed, drawing in a sketchbook, while Elijah dozed in the adjacent bed, his small frame nearly lost among the monitors and IV lines. The sight of them so vulnerable, so precious, never failed to tighten Olivia's chest with fierce protectiveness. "Emma, sweetie, this is Mr. Reed. He's the donor who's going to help you, and your brother." The little girl looked up, her large gray eyes, Dominic's eyes, studying him intently. "You have the same special cells that can fix our broken ones?" Dominic seemed momentarily stunned into silence, whether by the directness of her question or the undeniable resemblance Olivia couldn't tell. "Yes," he finally said, his voice gentler than Olivia had heard it in years. "I do. Does it hurt to give them to us?" "Not much," he answered, moving closer to her bed. "Nothing compared to what you've been going through, I imagine." "Nut." Emma nodded seriously. "We're pretty tough. Mom says we get that from her side of the family." Dominic's eyes met Olivia's over Emma's head, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. "What are you drawing?" he asked, redirecting his attention to the sketchbook. "Our house from before we got sick. Mom had to sell it because hospitals cost lots of money." She held up the drawing, a simple but recognizable rendition of the suburban home Olivia had purchased after the divorce, before medical bills had forced them into a small apartment. "You have a good memory for detail," Dominic observed, studying the drawing. "Elijah remembers more details, but he's always sleeping now." She looked at her brother with a mixture of concern and frustration. "When we get better, he promised to teach me chess again." "You play chess?" Dominic asked, genuine interest in his voice. "Elijah does. He's really good. Mom says he's a natural strategist, like," she caught herself, glancing at Olivia. "Like someone I used to know," Olivia finished smoothly. Dominic moved to Elijah's bedside, his expression unreadable as he studied the boy's face, a smaller, more delicate version of his own. "How soon can we do the procedure?" he asked, not looking away from his sleeping son. "Dr. Kaplan wants to start conditioning them tomorrow. The actual transplant would be in 5 days if all goes well. I'll be ready whenever they need me." Emma watched this exchange with the sharp perception of a child who had spent too much time in adult medical conversations. "Are you going to save us both?" she asked directly. Dominic turned back to her, something shifting in his expression. "Yes, Emma, I'm going to do everything I can to make you both well again. Number N." "Good," she said decisively. "Elijah will want to thank you when he wakes up. He's very polite. I look forward to meeting him properly." Dominic hesitated, then added, "Would it be all right if I visited again before the procedure?" Emma brightened immediately. "Yes, you could bring a chess set for when Elijah feels better. And maybe some new colored pencils? The hospital ones are all stubby. And matte or stiff." "Emma," Olivia cautioned gently, "Mr. Reed is very busy. He runs a large company." "Not too busy for this," Dominic said, surprising her. "Chess set and colored pencils. I think I can manage that." As they left the room a few minutes later, Olivia could see Dominic was shaken beneath his composed exterior. In the hallway, Victoria Lawrence approached, her expression a mixture of impatience and discomfort. "Dominic, the board meeting starts in 30 minutes across town." "Reschedule it," he replied, still looking at the closed door to the twins' room. "You can't reschedule the quarterly board meeting because you're having a sentimental moment," Victoria hissed, then composed herself when she noticed Olivia watching. "Dr. Reed, I don't believe we've been properly introduced." "Victoria Lawrence." "Olivia Reed," she replied with professional courtesy. "Thank you for your support in this difficult situation." Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Dominic has explained everything. Naturally, we want what's best for the children." Her emphasis on "we" staked a clear claim. "Perhaps, once they're recovered, we can discuss more appropriate arrangements." "My children's arrangements are perfectly appropriate," Olivia replied evenly. Dominic, seemingly oblivious to the tension, turned to his fiancée. "I need Jameson to clear my schedule for the next 2 weeks. The transplant team will need me available on short notice." Victoria's composure slipped momentarily. 2 weeks? "Dominic, we have the foundation gala, the merger talks with Aspen Tech, not to mention our wedding preparations. All of which can be managed without my physical presence." He cut in. "This can't." The unexpected firmness in his voice suggested this wasn't the first time they'd had this conversation. Victoria pressed her lips together, then nodded stiffly. "I'll have Jameson make the arrangements." As she walked away, Dominic turned back to Olivia. "I meant what I said in there. I want to be involved in their treatment and recovery, not just as a donor." "And after that?" Olivia asked, voicing the question that had been haunting her since his arrival. "What happens when they're well and your conscience is clear?" He studied her face, the intensity of his gaze, uncomfortably familiar. "I don't know yet, but I'm not walking away again, Liv. That's not your decision alone to make." She reminded him. The twins have a stable life with clear boundaries and expectations. Any change to that has to be in their best interest, not yours. "Or yours?" he countered quietly. The implication stung. "This isn't about me protecting myself from you, Dominic. It's about protecting them. You left because illness was too messy, too uncontrollable for your perfectly ordered world. Their lives are nothing but medicine and monitoring and uncertainty." "I know." For the first time, genuine remorse showed in his expression. "And I'll never forgive myself for leaving you to face that alone. But I'm here now, and I want to help. Thanks for watching." Then follow the doctor's instructions. Donate when they ask, and let me handle the rest. She stepped back, needing physical distance from his presence. "The twins and I have managed just fine without you for 7 years. Your bone marrow is essential. You are not." The harsh words landed exactly as intended, creating a barrier between them that felt necessary for her own protection. Without waiting for his response, Olivia turned and walked back toward her children's room, each step an effort to outpace the unwelcome emotions his return had unleashed. If you've ever wondered whether someone who hurt you deeply can truly change, this story will take you on a journey of redemption that challenges everything you thought you knew about forgiveness. Comment below if you believe people deserve second chances when they show genuine remorse. Despite Olivia's efforts to maintain distance, Dominic became a fixture at the hospital over the next week. He arrived each morning with careful gifts: the promised chess set for Elijah, art supplies for Emma, and, most surprisingly, relevant research papers for Olivia on emerging treatments for their condition. Victoria appeared occasionally, her discomfort in the pediatric ward painfully obvious despite her designer outfits, carefully chosen to appear approachable. The contrast between her calculated appearances and Dominic's growing genuine involvement was impossible to ignore. On the 5th day, Elijah was finally alert enough for a proper introduction. Unlike his sister's immediate warmth, the boy regarded Dominic with solemn evaluation. "Your company makes the AI diagnostic system," he said, his voice weak but his mind clearly sharp. "I read about it in my science magazine." Dominic couldn't hide his surprise. "That's right. You're interested in technology?" "I'm interested in solutions," Elijah replied with a seriousness beyond his years. "Mom says every problem has a solution if you look at it the right way." "Your mom is very wise," Dominic said, glancing at Olivia with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. "Are you really going to give us your cells tomorrow?" Elijah continued. "Emma said you are, but sometimes she exaggerates." "I do not," Emma protested from her bed. "Remember the time you said the night nurse was actually a superhero in disguise? She could be. You don't know." Dominic laughed, the sound startling in its naturalness. "Yes, I'm really donating tomorrow. The doctors have already started preparing my cells." Elijah nodded, apparently satisfied. "It's statistically unlikely to find a non-relative match this perfect. Mom explained the genetics to us." "Did she?" Dominic's eyes found Olivia's again, a silent question in them. "Mom explains everything," Emma chimed in. "She says knowledge is power, especially when your body isn't cooperating." "That sounds like your mother," Dominic agreed, his voice softening. "She always believed in facing things head-on." The tone shift wasn't lost on Elijah, who observed with the careful attention he brought to everything. "Did you know our mom before?" The question hung in the air, its innocence belying its complexity. Olivia felt her heart rate accelerate as Dominic measured his response. "Yes," he said finally. "We knew each other a long time ago." "Before we were born?" Emma pressed, her curiosity piqued. "Emma," Olivia intervened. "Mr. Reed needs to rest before tomorrow's procedure. Why don't we let him go home and prepare?" To her relief, Dominic respected the boundary. "Your mom's right. Big day tomorrow. But I promise I'll be back to check on you both afterward." After he left, Emma turned to Olivia with the directness that always caught her off guard. "He looks like Elijah will when he grows up." I noticed that too, Elijah added quietly. Is that why he's such a good match for us? Olivia sat on the edge of Emma's bed, choosing her words carefully. Sometimes these connections happen for reasons we don't fully understand. The important thing is that his donation gives you both your best chance at getting better. But there's more, Elijah persisted. I can tell when grown-ups are not saying something important. Facing her son's penetrating gaze, so like his father's, Olivia felt the weight of years of careful omissions. There is more, she acknowledged. And we'll talk about it when you're both stronger. I promise. That night, after the twins finally slept, Olivia stood at the window of their hospital room, watching the city lights blur through her tears. The careful life she'd constructed where Dominic existed only as an abstract concept, where her children's questions about their father could be deflected with gentle half-truths, was unraveling with each visit, each interaction that revealed the undeniable connections between them. Her phone vibrated with a text message, outside in the garden, need to talk before tomorrow. D. The hospital's small healing garden was empty at this late hour. Dominic sat alone on a bench, surrounded by carefully tended plants, looking nothing like the polished CEO who had first received her in his office. His tie was loosened, his hair slightly disheveled, his posture betraying exhaustion. You should be resting, Olivia said, sitting beside him but maintaining a careful distance. Couldn't sleep, he admitted. Tomorrow feels significant beyond the medical procedure. It is significant. You're giving them a chance at life. They're already figuring it out, aren't they? He asked, looking at her directly. The connection between us. They're extraordinarily perceptive children. Emma sees patterns in people, and Elijah never stops analyzing information until he finds the logical conclusion. They're remarkable, Dominic said softly. I keep thinking about all the years I've missed, all the moments I'll never get back. That was your choice. I know. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made her chest ache. Victoria and I are postponing the wedding. The revelation surprised her. Because of the transplant? Because I need time to figure out what kind of life I want. What kind of man I want to be. He turned to face her fully. When I left you, I convinced myself it was the rational choice. That I couldn't be what you needed during your illness. That we'd both be better off if I focused on building something meaningful, while you focused on recovery. Convenient logic, Olivia observed, the old hurt surfacing despite her efforts to suppress it. It was cowardice disguised as logic, he corrected. I was terrified of watching you suffer, of being helpless. I've spent my life controlling outcomes, building systems that solve problems. Your diagnosis was a problem I couldn't solve, and I ran from it like a coward. The raw honesty in his admission caught her off guard. This wasn't the calculated, emotionless exit he'd made 2 years ago. Tomorrow I'm going to help save our children's lives, he continued, his voice steady despite the emotion behind it. But that's the easy part. The hard part comes after figuring out how to be part of their lives without disrupting the stability you've created, learning how to be the father they deserve. And what does Victoria think about this sudden desire for fatherhood? Dominic's expression darkened slightly. She suggested a financial arrangement that would provide for their care while minimizing my direct involvement. Of course she has. Olivia couldn't keep the bitterness from her voice. That would be the cleanest solution for everyone. Not for the twins. And not for me. He hesitated before adding, not for us, Liv. The implication in those words sent a jolt through her. There is no us, Dominic. You made sure of that when you walked away. 1. People change. Priorities change. Mine haven't, she said firmly. My priority has always been protecting those children, giving them the most stable, loving environment possible. I won't let them become an interesting diversion for a man who gets bored with messy human complications. Is that what you think this is? I don't know what this is. I just know that my children have been through enough without adding emotional confusion to their lives. Our children, he corrected gently. Biology doesn't make you a parent, Dominic. Being there does. He nodded, accepting the rebuke. Then give me the chance to be there, not just for the transplant, but for everything that comes after. And if I say no? Then I'll respect your decision, but I won't stop trying to prove I can be the father they deserve. He stood, fatigue evident in his movements. We should both get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. As he walked away, Olivia remained on the bench, surrounded by night-blooming flowers, whose scent reminded her painfully of their first apartment garden, the one Dominic had planted for her because she'd mentioned once that she missed growing things. Memories she'd locked away came flooding back. His excitement when she told him she was going to medical school, his unwavering support through her grueling residency, the tender care he'd shown during the early days of her diagnosis before fear had overtaken him. The man walking away now seemed caught between the Dominic she'd loved and the stranger he'd become. She didn't know if she could trust this evolution, if she dared believe he could be the steady presence their children needed. But tomorrow he would give a piece of himself to save them, and that, at least, was a beginning she couldn't deny. The day of the transplant arrived with a strange sense of both tension and hope. Dominic underwent his procedure first, emerging tired but determined to visit the twins before they received his cells. "You should be resting," Olivia admonished when he appeared in the doorway to their room, where both children were being prepared. "I'll rest when they have what they need," he replied, moving to stand between their beds. "How are you two feeling?" "Scared," Emma admitted, smaller than ever beneath the hospital blankets. "But Mom says it's okay to be scared as long as we're also brave." "Your mom is right," Dominic said, his voice gentle. "Being brave doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you do what needs to be done anyway." "Like giving us your cells even though it hurt?" Elijah asked perceptively. "Exactly like that." Dominic glanced at Olivia. Something unspoken, passing between them. Sometimes the things that seem scary lead to something better than we could have imagined. Dr. Kaplan entered with the transplant team, bringing with them the first bags of life-saving cells. "Time to begin," she announced. "Mr. Reed, you should probably wait outside." "I'd like to stay," he said, looking to Olivia for permission. "If that's all right." After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. "Stay." The procedure itself was anticlimactic, clear bags of cells flowing into small bodies through existing central lines. But the significance of the moment weighed heavily in the room as Dominic and Olivia stood on opposite sides of their children's beds, connected by invisible threads of shared creation and shared purpose. When it was done, when both twins were resting with their father's cells beginning the work of healing, Olivia found Dominic in the hallway, his back against the wall, eyes closed in what looked like prayer. "Thank you," she said simply. He opened his eyes, the rawness of emotion in them catching her off guard. "They're going to be all right, aren't they? The prognosis is good. Your cells were perfect matches. And after they recover? What happens then?" Olivia took a deep breath, the decision she'd been wrestling with finally crystallizing in the face of his genuine concern. "They deserve to know who you are. When they're stronger, we'll tell them together." The hope that flared in his expression was unmistakable. "And my role in their lives? We'll figure that out one day at a time," she said cautiously. "They need consistency, Dominic. Not grand gestures and then disappearance when things get difficult." "Thanks. I understand." He hesitated before adding, "Victoria and I ended things last night." Olivia wasn't sure how to respond to this revelation. "I'm sorry," she offered finally. "Don't be. It was the right decision for both of us. She wants a particular kind of life that doesn't include someone else's children or a husband whose priorities have fundamentally changed." "And have they? Changed?" "Completely." He met her gaze steadily. "Seeing them, knowing them, understanding what you've been through to keep them alive, it's changed everything for me." Before she could respond, a nurse appeared with urgent news. Emma had spiked a fever, a potential sign of complications. Both rushed back to the room where their daughter was already being attended by the medical team. What followed were 3 days of crisis. Emma's body, fighting the donor cells, her small system struggling to integrate the very thing meant to save her. Through it all, Dominic remained, sleeping in uncomfortable chairs, learning medical terminology, asking intelligent questions of the doctors, and most importantly, never showing fear in front of either twin. On the 4th night, with Emma finally stabilized and both children sleeping, Olivia found Dominic in the small parents' lounge, staring into a cup of cold coffee. "You should go home," she said, taking the seat across from him. "Get some real sleep. I'll call if anything changes." "I can't leave them," he replied simply. "Not now." The quiet certainty in his voice reflected something Olivia had been observing with growing awareness. Dominic Reed, the man who had run from illness and uncertainty, was facing both with a steadiness she'd never expected. "You've surprised me," she admitted. "I didn't think you could handle this." "Neither did I." A tired smile crossed his face. "But it turns out some things are more important than control or certainty or looking strong. Some things are worth facing your greatest fears for. Like your children. Like our family," he corrected gently, the word hanging between them like a question. Olivia felt the careful walls she'd built beginning to crumble. The past week had shown her a version of Dominic she'd thought lost forever, the man who approached problems with determination rather than avoidance, who put others' needs above his own comfort, who faced uncertainty with courage rather than retreat. "I don't know if I can trust this change," she admitted. "What happens when the crisis passes? When life becomes ordinary again, with medications and checkups, and all the unglamorous parts of raising children with chronic conditions?" She admitted. "I can't prove what I'll do in the future," he acknowledged. "I can only show you who I am now, day by day." He reached across the table, not quite touching her hand but close enough that she could feel his warmth. "All I'm asking for is the chance to prove myself to you. To them, to myself." Before she could answer, a nurse appeared in the doorway. "Dr. Reed, Elijah is awake and asking for both of you." They found their son sitting up in bed, his color better than it had been in weeks, his eyes alert despite the late hour. "Mom, is Emma going to be okay now?" he asked immediately. "Yes, sweetheart. The fever's broken and her numbers are improving." "Ah." Elijah nodded, processing this information before turning his attention to Dominic. "You stayed," he observed simply. "Of course I stayed. Most donors just give their cells and leave. The nurse told me that." "I'm not most donors," Dominic replied carefully. Elijah studied him with the analytical gaze that was so familiar. "You're our father, aren't you? That's why you match us so perfectly. That's why you look like me." The directness of the question silenced both adults momentarily. Olivia moved to her son's bedside, taking his hand. "Elijah." "It's okay, Mom. I figured it out days ago. The genetics make sense. You always said our father couldn't be with us, but you never said he wasn't alive." Dominic approached the other side of the bed, his expression open and vulnerable in a way Olivia had rarely seen. "Yes, Elijah, I am your father." "And Emma's too?" "Yes, both of you." Elijah considered this without visible emotion. "Why weren't you with us before?" Mom said it was complicated. Dominic glanced at Olivia before answering. "I made a terrible mistake. When your mom got sick, I was afraid and I handled it badly. I left when I should have stayed. I left, and you didn't know about us?" "No, I didn't know. If I had, you might have stayed," Elijah pressed with uncompromising logic. "I hope I would have," Dominic answered honestly. "But what matters is that I'm here now, and I want to be part of your lives if you'll let me." Elijah absorbed this, his young face serious beyond his years. "Emma will have questions too. She's more emotional about these things." "I'll answer whatever questions both of you have," Dominic promised. "And I'll be here for as long as it takes to prove I'm not going anywhere again." "Mom?" Elijah turned to Olivia, his expression suddenly uncertain. "Is this okay?" The question broke her heart a little, her brave, analytical son checking if his own hopes might hurt her. "Yes, sweetheart. If this is what you want, we'll figure it out together." Elijah nodded, seemingly satisfied with this answer. "I'm tired now," he announced pragmatically. "But I want to play chess tomorrow. Dad said he was good at strategy too." "Die." The word, Dad, spoken so naturally, without hesitation seemed to catch Dominic off guard. Olivia saw him blink rapidly, emotion threatening to overcome his composure. "Tomorrow," he agreed, his voice thick. "Chess, and then whatever else you'd like to do. Tomorrow." After Elijah had fallen back asleep, they stood in the hallway between their children's rooms, the weight of the conversation settling around them. "He called me Dad," Dominic said quietly, wonder in his voice. "He's been waiting his whole life to say that word to someone real," Olivia replied. "Don't make him regret it." "I won't." He looked at her with newfound determination. "I know we have a long way to go, Liv. I know trust has to be earned back slowly, day by day. But I want you to know I'm committed to this, to them, to being the father they deserve, to supporting you in any way you'll allow." "And your company? Your life in the spotlight?" "Reed Enterprises will continue with or without my daily presence. I've already spoken to the board about restructuring my role to allow for personal priorities." He paused before adding, "Whatever happens between us, whether we ever find our way back to each other or remain co-parents, only I'm in this for good. No more running, no more fear." As if to emphasize his point, Emma called out from her room, her voice small but insistent. Both moved immediately to respond, their shared purpose overriding all other considerations. If you believe in the power of redemption, if you've ever witnessed someone transform when faced with what truly matters, Hit the like button and share this story with someone who needs to be reminded that people can change when given the chance to rise to their best selves. The following week brought steady improvement for both children, though Emma's recovery remained slower and more precarious. Dominic continued his daily visits, arranging his business obligations around hospital hours with a dedication that surprised everyone who knew him, particularly his board of directors, who received the unprecedented news that their CEO would be working remotely for the foreseeable future. The morning Emma was finally well enough to hear the truth about Dominic, Olivia found herself nervously pacing the corridor outside her daughter's room. The child's emotional nature made this conversation infinitely more complicated than the logical exchange with Elijah. "We should go in together," Dominic said, appearing beside her with 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Olivia, the simple gesture feeling strangely intimate. "Unless you prefer to speak with her alone first?" Olivia shook her head. "No, she should hear it from both of us. I'm just worried about overwhelming her when she's still fragile." "She's stronger than she looks," Dominic observed, "like her mother." The compliment caught her off guard, reminding her of earlier days when his belief in her strength had helped carry her through medical school and residency. Before she could respond, Emma's voice called from inside the room. "Mom, are you out there? I can hear you talking." They entered to find Emma sitting up against her pillows, her color markedly improved, her bright eyes taking in their matched coffee cups with interest. "Are you 2 friends now?" she asked directly. Olivia and Dominic exchanged glances. "We're working on it," Olivia answered carefully. "Good," Emma declared, "because I think Mr. Reed should stay around after we get better. He knows how to draw horses way better than you do, Mom." "Emma," Olivia began, sitting on the edge of her bed, "there's something important we need to tell you about Mr. Reed." "Is it that he's our dad?" Emma asked casually. "Because Elijah already told me." Dominic nearly choked on his coffee. "He told you?" "This morning when the nurses took you for your tests," Olivia explained. "He thought it would be better coming from him." Emma nodded solemnly. "He said he'd help me understand the complicated parts. Like how come you didn't know we existed, and why you left Mom, and why you came back now." The directness of her statement left both adults momentarily speechless. Dominic recovered first, moving to sit on Emma's other side. "And what did you think about all that?" he asked gently. Emma studied him with an intensity that belied her 7 years. "I think Elijah's right that you didn't know about us. Mom wouldn't lie about something that important." "That's true," Olivia confirmed. "Your father didn't know I was pregnant when we separated. And I think you're sorry you left," Emma continued, her gaze fixed on Dominic. "You look sad sometimes when you think no one's watching, but I always watch people." "I am sorry," Dominic said quietly, "more than I can ever express. Elijah says people make mistakes because of fear. Were you afraid?" The question, so simple yet so profound, seemed to pierce straight to his core. "Yes," he admitted. "I was terrified of seeing your mother sick and not being able to fix it. I was afraid of feeling helpless. So I ran away instead of being brave enough to stay and help." Emma absorbed this, her face thoughtful. "But you're not running now, even though me being sick was scary." "No, I'm not running, and I'm not going to." "Promise?" she asked, her voice suddenly smaller, more vulnerable. "I promise, Emma." He took her small hand in his. "I can't undo the mistakes I've made, but I can promise to be here from now on for you, for your brother, for as long as you'll let me." Emma's serious expression suddenly bloomed into a radiant smile. "Good, because I've been saving a whole bunch of questions about you. Like, do you like strawberry ice cream? Because that's my favorite. And can you fix my music box that stopped working? And will you be at my birthday party next month? And—" "Emma," Olivia interrupted gently, "maybe give your dad a chance to answer one question before asking the next 10. The word dad felt strange on her tongue, a concession to a reality she was still adjusting to. But the joy that lit Emma's face at hearing it matched by the quiet wonder in Dominic's expression convinced her it was the right choice. "I like chocolate ice cream, but strawberry is a close second," Dominic began, answering each question in turn. "I'd be happy to look at your music box, and I wouldn't miss your birthday for anything in the world." As Emma peppered him with more questions, Olivia slipped out of the room, needing a moment to process the seismic shift in their family dynamic. The fortress of independence she built around herself and her children now had a breach one she'd allowed, even facilitated. The The question was whether that breach would ultimately strengthen or weaken the foundations she worked so hard to establish. In the corridor, she leaned against the wall, closing her eyes against a sudden rush of emotion. The sound of approaching footsteps made her straighten, composing herself just as Dr. Kaplan rounded the corner. "Olivia, there you are. I have excellent news. Both children's latest blood work shows remarkable improvement. The donor cells are integrating beautifully." "That's wonderful," Olivia said, relief washing through her. "When can they come home?" "If this progress continues, possibly within a week. They'll need careful monitoring, of course, and regular outpatient visits. But I see no reason they can't recover in a more comfortable environment." The prospect of taking her children home, truly home, not to another hospital or treatment center, was overwhelming. For the first time in years, Olivia allowed herself to imagine a future not dominated by immediate medical crises. "There's something else," Dr. Kaplan continued, her expression softening. "The genetic markers in Dominic's cells seem to be providing an unexpected benefit. The children's condition may be more manageable long-term than we initially projected." "What does that mean exactly?" "It means that with continued treatment, they have an excellent chance at leading normal, active lives. Not just surviving, Olivia, thriving." "One?" The words Olivia had longed to hear for so long left her momentarily speechless. She reached for the wall to steady herself, overwhelmed by hope after years of carefully managed expectations. "Thank you," she managed finally. "Thank you for everything you've done for them." "Don't thank me," Dr. Kaplan said with a smile. "Thank their donor. Those are remarkable cells and remarkably compatible genes." As the doctor walked away, Olivia stood alone in the hallway, confronting a truth she'd been avoiding. Dominic hadn't just given their children life once through conception, but twice through his donation. Whatever his past failures, this gift couldn't be measured or dismissed. The realization didn't erase the pain of their history, but it cast it in a different light, one that allowed for the possibility of growth, of change, of redemption. Not for her sake, but for the children who deserve the chance to know both parents at their best. With this thought settling in her heart, she returned to Emma's room to share the good news, finding Dominic in the midst of an elaborate story about a princess who built robots to protect her kingdom. Emma was rapt, her eyes shining with the simple joy of a child listening to her father's voice. The scene struck Olivia with such unexpected poignancy that she paused in the doorway, allowing herself to witness this moment without interruption. It was a glimpse of what might have been, and perhaps, against all odds, what still could be. Have you ever witnessed someone transform when given the opportunity to be their best self? Sometimes the people who hurt us most deeply are capable of the most profound change when they're finally confronted with what truly matters. Like this video, if you believe in the power of growth and redemption. The day the twins were discharged from the hospital arrived with a flurry of activity and unexpected complications. The small apartment Olivia had moved to after selling their home couldn't accommodate two recovering children with their medical equipment, yet she was determined to make it work somehow. "I've made arrangements," Dominic said as they waited for the final paperwork, "if you're willing to consider them." Olivia looked up from the discharge instructions she was reviewing. "What kind of arrangements?" "I've leased a house in Oakwood Heights. 4 bedrooms, main floor access for the twins while they're still using wheelchairs, a garden for when they're stronger. It's 10 minutes from your work and 5 minutes from their school." "Dominic." "It's not what you think," he interjected quickly. "I've leased it in your name. There's a guest house on the property where I'll stay when I'm in town, which will be frequently but not intrusive. The children need space to recover, and you need a place that doesn't require you to choose between paying rent and buying medications." Olivia felt conflicting emotions rise within her, gratitude for the practical solution warring with fierce independence. "I can't accept that kind of financial support. It creates obligations and expectations that it creates nothing except a safe space for our children to heal." He interrupted gently. "Think of it as back payment for 7 years of child support I should have been providing. We managed just fine without your money." "Did you?" he challenged, his voice low to avoid being overheard. "You sold your house. You're working double shifts at the hospital. Emma mentioned you sometimes skip meals so they can have enough. That's not managing, Liv. That's surviving at the expense of yourself." Ole. The accuracy of his assessment stung. "I did what I had to do." "I know you did. And you did it brilliantly, alone. But you're not alone anymore. And there's no nobility in refusing help that would make their lives and yours easier." Before she could formulate a response, Emma's excited voice called from her room. "Mom, Dad says we're going to a new house with a garden. Can we plant strawberries?" The joy in her daughter's voice, the simple delight at the prospect of a garden, something so basic yet so long out of reach, deflated Olivia's resistance. What right did she have to deny her children comfort and space to heal because of her pride? "Yes," she called back, her eyes still locked with Dominic's. "We can plant strawberries." The relief in his expression was palpable. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for letting me do this much, at least." The move happened with surprising efficiency, orchestrated by Dominic's staff with a discretion that respected Olivia's desire to avoid charity spectacle. By the time they arrived from the hospital, the house was prepared with all necessary medical equipment, the kitchen stocked, and the twins' rooms decorated in themes they loved: space exploration for Elijah, woodland creatures for Emma. "This is really ours?" Emma asked in wonder as Dominic wheeled her through the front door. "All of it?" "All yours," Dominic confirmed. "For as long as you want it." Elijah, more perceptive as always, caught the nuance. "But not yours? You're not living here with us?" "I'll be staying in the guest house at the back of the property," Dominic explained carefully. "Close enough to help whenever you need me, but giving you and your mom your own space." Elijah processed this with a slight frown. "That doesn't make sense. Families should stay together." "It's complicated, buddy," Dominic began. "Adults always say that when they don't want to explain something," Emma observed sagely. "But we're good at understanding complicated things." Olivia intervened, recognizing the territory they were entering. "Your dad and I need time to figure out how to work together as your parents. We haven't done that before, and we want to do it right." "But you love each other, don't you?" Emma asked with the directness that continually caught them off guard. "I can tell by how you look at each other when you think no one's watching." An uncomfortable silence fell, broken only by the arrival of the home health nurse, who would be assisting during the twins' early recovery. The moment passed, but Emma's question lingered in the air between them, unanswered yet impossible to forget. The first weeks in the new house established a rhythm both strange and comforting. Dominic came each morning, helping with breakfast and medications before his workday began remotely from the guest house. He returned for dinner, often cooking elaborate meals that tempted the twins' recovering appetites, then stayed for evening routines before retreating to his separate quarters. It was an arrangement that should have felt awkward but instead developed a natural flow, as though they were gradually remembering how to orbit around each other after years of separation. One evening, after the children were asleep, Olivia found Dominic on the back patio, reviewing documents on his tablet. The night was cool but not cold, the garden already showing signs of the life they'd planted together. Strawberries for Emma, a chess-themed herb garden for Elijah. "They're both asleep," she said, settling into the chair beside him. "Emma's fever is down, and Elijah's cough seems better." "Good." He set aside his work with immediate focus. "Dr. Kaplan said the latest blood work was promising." "Very. She thinks they might be ready to return to school part-time next month." A comfortable silence fell between them, filled only by the distant sounds of the city and the gentle sway of new garden plants. It struck Olivia how easy this moment felt, sharing the simple pleasure of good news about their children's health, without the desperate edge that had colored so much of the past years. "Thank you," she said suddenly, "for all of this. The house, your time, yourselves. I haven't said it properly before. You don't need to thank me for doing what I should have been doing all along. Maybe not, but I am grateful, regardless of what should have happened differently." He looked at her then, really looked at her, in the way he used to before ambition and fear had changed him. "I don't want your gratitude, Liv. I want your forgiveness. But I know I haven't earned that yet." The honesty in his voice touched something deep within her, the part that remembered loving him completely, before everything broke apart. "I think," she said carefully, "forgiveness isn't something you earn through specific actions. It's something that happens gradually, when the anger stops being the first thing you feel when you look at someone." "And what's the first thing you feel now?" he asked quietly. Olivia considered the question with the same thoughtfulness she brought to difficult diagnoses. "Curiosity," she answered finally, "about who you are now, about who we might be to each other, as the parents of these extraordinary children. That's more than I dared hope for. It's all I can offer right now." "Then I'll take it," he said simply, "and be grateful for the chance." As weeks turned into months, the twins' recovery progressed steadily. They returned to school part-time, celebrated their 8th birthday with a garden party that brought genuine joy to their small faces, and developed a comfortable routine that included both parents in complementary roles. Dominic kept his promise to remain consistently present, rearranging his business empire to accommodate family dinners and school events with the same determination he'd once brought to corporate acquisitions. The change in him wasn't lost on his industry colleagues or the business press, who noted with surprise that Reed Enterprises continued to thrive despite its CEO's dramatic shift in priorities. For Olivia, the adjustment was equally profound. After years of shouldering every burden alone, learning to share responsibilities to trust another person with her children's care required a vulnerability she'd thought lost forever. Yet with each week that Dominic proved reliable, another brick in her defensive wall crumbled away. The first major test of their new co-parenting relationship came in late autumn, when Elijah developed pneumonia, a dangerous complication given his compromised immune system. The crisis sent them rushing to the hospital in the middle of the night, the familiar terror of urgent care enveloping them once more. As they waited for test results, Dominic paced the small consultation room, with barely contained anxiety. "This is my fault. I took him to the science museum last week. There were too many people, too many germs." "It's not your fault," Olivia said firmly. "Children get sick, especially children with compromised immune systems. We can't keep them in bubbles forever." "But I should have been more careful. I should have." "Dominic." She caught his hand as he passed, stopping his frantic movement. "This is what parenting chronically ill children looks like. There will be emergencies. There will be setbacks. We can't predict or prevent them all." He looked down at her hand on his, then back to her face. "How do you do it? How do you stay so calm when they're suffering?" "I'm not calm inside," she admitted. "I'm terrified every single time. But they need us to be steady, to show them that these moments are manageable, that they won't always feel this scary. I don't know if I can be that for them." "You already are." She squeezed his hand gently. "You didn't run from Emma's complications after the transplant. You didn't panic when Elijah's recovery stalled. You've been exactly what they needed through every challenge so far." The surprise in his eyes told her he hadn't recognized his own growth. "I never thought I could face illness without falling apart. When you were diagnosed, I convinced myself I was protecting you from my weakness by leaving. But the truth is, I was protecting myself from having to witness suffering I couldn't control. And now? Now I understand what you tried to tell me back then, that presence matters more than solutions. That sometimes all we can offer is the promise not to disappear when things get difficult." Olivia felt something shift between them in that moment, a recognition of shared purpose that transcended their complicated past. Before she could respond, the doctor entered with Elijah's results. The pneumonia was significant but treatable, requiring a few days in the hospital but nothing that threatened his overall recovery. The relief was overwhelming, leaving them both emotional as they went to share the news with their son. When they entered his room, they found him sitting up in bed, pale but alert, his analytical mind already processing the situation. "It's pneumonia, isn't it?" he asked immediately. "I've been researching the symptoms." "Of course you have," Olivia said with a smile. "And yes, it is. But it's responding well to antibiotics. Here. How long do I have to stay here?" "A few days," Dominic answered. "Just until your breathing improves and the fever breaks completely." Elijah nodded, processing this information. "Will you both stay with me?" The question was simple but carried weight beyond its words, a child seeking reassurance that illness wouldn't cause another abandonment. Dominic moved to sit beside the bed, taking Elijah's hand with gentle firmness. "We'll take shifts so someone is always with you," he promised. "Day and night, for as long as you're here." "And Emma?" "Your sister is staying with Mrs. Peterson next door," Olivia explained. "She's not happy about being separated from you, but her immune system can't risk exposure right now." Elijah accepted this with the practical nature that defined him. "Will you play chess with me?" he asked Dominic. "The nurse said there's a set in the activity room." 5. "Absolutely. Though I should warn you, I was regional champion 3 years running in college." "Good," Elijah said with unexpected competitive fire. "I like a challenge." Watching them together, her son and his father, connected by intelligence and determination and shared DNA, Olivia felt a strange peace settle over her. Whatever mistakes had been made, whatever pain still lingered from the past, these two belonged in each other's lives. That certainty, at least, was no longer in question. Sometimes the most broken relationships can be rebuilt when we focus on what truly matters. If this story of healing and redemption speaks to your heart, hit that like button and share it with someone who might need a reminder that change is always possible. The holiday season arrived with unexpected poignancy. After years of subdued celebrations, limited by medical constraints and financial reality, the twins were well enough to experience Christmas with the wide-eyed wonder that had been denied them for so long. Dominic approached the holiday with the same intensity he brought to everything important, transforming the house into a wonderland of lights and decorations that left Emma speechless with delight and even drew reluctant admiration from Elijah. The tree they selected together after careful consideration of at least 20 candidates filled the front window with fragrant pine and twinkling lights. "This is the best Christmas ever," Emma declared as she carefully placed ornaments on branches she could reach from her wheelchair. Her strength was returning, but she still tired easily, a reminder of the long road to full recovery that lay ahead. "It's certainly the fullest," Olivia agreed, helping her reach a higher branch. "Dad may have gone slightly overboard with the decorations." "I heard that," Dominic called from the kitchen, where he was attempting to recreate his grandmother's famous gingerbread recipe with mixed success. "And I regret nothing." Elijah looked up from the book he was reading by the fire, a rare indulgence in fiction among his usual scientific texts. "Mom, is Aunt Karen still coming for Christmas dinner?" The question hung in the air for a moment. Karen was Olivia's closest friend, the person who had supported her through the darkest days after Dominic's departure. Her opinion of him remained, understandably, less than favorable. "Yes," Olivia answered carefully, "and she's excited to see you both. It's been too long since her last visit." Elijah nodded thoughtfully. "Is she going to be mad that Dad is here?" The directness of the question, so typical of her son, caught Olivia off guard. She glanced toward the kitchen, but Dominic had stepped outside to take a business call, leaving her to navigate this delicate territory alone. "Aunt Karen cares about what's best for you and Emma," she said after a moment. "She'll be happy to see you doing so well." "That's not what I asked, Mom." Olivia sighed, recognizing the futility of evasion. "Aunt Karen has strong opinions about what happened between your father and me. But adults sometimes disagree while still respecting each other's choices." "You mean she hates him," Emma translated bluntly, "because he left when you got sick?" "I don't think hate is the right word," Olivia began, though privately, she thought it might be precisely the right word for Karen's feelings. "She doesn't have to like him," Elijah reasoned. "But we do, so she should at least be polite." "I'm sure she will be," Olivia assured them, though her confidence was limited. Karen's loyalty was one of her finest qualities, but it came with an elephantine memory for those who had caused pain to people she loved. The conversation was interrupted by Dominic's return, his phone call concluded and his focus immediately returning to family preparations. "Gingerbread is cooling, and I've finally decoded my grandmother's frosting recipe. Who wants to help decorate?" The children moved eagerly to the kitchen, the momentary tension forgotten in the simple pleasure of creating something together. Olivia followed more slowly, her mind still caught on Elijah's observation. The twins' relationship with their father had blossomed with surprising ease, but the wider circle of family and friends remained complicated territory they had yet to navigate fully. Christmas Eve brought the first snow of the season, transforming the garden into a glistening wonderland that captivated the twins. Despite medical precautions, they insisted on bundling up to experience it directly, Emma catching flakes on her tongue, while Elijah examined individual crystals with scientific fascination. "They seem like normal kids in this moment," Dominic observed, standing beside Olivia on the back porch. "Not patients or medical cases, just children delighting in snow." "That's all I've ever wanted for them," she admitted. "Normal moments strung together into a childhood they don't have to recover from later. You've given them that, despite everything. The resilience they show, the joy they find in simple things that comes from you, Liv." She shook her head slightly. "It comes from them. They're extraordinary people in their own right, not just reflections of us." "True." He smiled as Emma attempted to form a snowball with mittened hands. "Though I do see pieces of us in them. Emma has your artistic eye and your compassion. Elijah has your meticulous approach to problems. And they both have your determination," she added, surprising herself with the compliment. "Your ability to focus absolutely on what matters to them." The observation pleased him visibly. "I'm learning from them every day. They've taught me more about priorities in 6 months than I learned in 20 years of business." They stood in comfortable silence, watching their children experience the simple magic of snowfall. When Emma's enthusiasm began to flag, her energy waning visibly, Dominic moved immediately to her side. "Hot chocolate time," he announced, "with those special marshmallows we've been saving." The children came willingly inside, cold-cheeked and bright-eyed from their winter adventure. As Dominic helped them with snow-crusted boots and damp mittens, Olivia prepared mugs of rich chocolate, adding cinnamon to Elijah's and extra marshmallows to Emma's, exactly as they preferred. The domestic scene struck her with unexpected force. This was the family life she had once imagined, the simple routines and shared moments that created belonging. For years, she had convinced herself such dreams were childish fantasies, incompatible with the reality of single parenthood and chronic illness. Yet here they were, living a version of that dream despite everything that should have made it impossible. Later, after the children were nestled in bed with visions of presents dancing in their heads, Olivia found Dominic arranging gifts beneath the tree with meticulous attention to balance and presentation. "You didn't have to do all this," she said, gesturing to the generous array of packages. "They would have been happy with much less." "I know," he acknowledged, "but I've missed 7 birthdays and 7 Christmases. A little excess seems forgivable under the circumstances." She couldn't argue with his logic, though the mountain of presents still made her uncomfortable. "Just don't make it a pattern. I don't want them measuring love in material terms." "They won't," he assured her. "They're too wise for that already." He straightened, examining his handiwork. "I think that's everything except—" He hesitated, then reached into his pocket and removed a small, elegantly wrapped box. "This one's for you." Olivia stared at the package with trepidation. "Dominic, we didn't discuss exchanging gifts." "I know, and you don't need to have anything for me. But I saw this, and—" He held the box out to her. "Please? It would mean a lot to me if you'd accept it." Reluctantly, she took the package, its weight suggesting jewelry, something she hadn't worn since selling her wedding and engagement rings to cover a particularly expensive round of treatments for the twins. "Should I open it now or tomorrow?" "Now, if you don't mind. It's not really a Christmas gift so much as something I've been wanting to give you for a while." Curious despite herself, Olivia carefully unwrapped the small box, lifting the lid to reveal a delicate gold locket nestled on velvet. The craftsmanship was exquisite, clearly antique but in perfect condition. "It's beautiful," she said honestly. "But Dominic, this is too much." "Open it," he urged gently. She did, expecting to find photos of the twins inside. Instead, she discovered a tiny engraved message, "For the moments missed and the moments to come." The sentiment struck her with unexpected force, bringing tears to eyes that rarely allowed such vulnerability. It wasn't a romantic declaration or a presumptuous claim, just a simple acknowledgement of time lost and the hope for time yet to be shared. "Thank you," she managed, closing the locket carefully. "It's perfect." "You don't have to wear it," he said quickly. "I just wanted you to have something that expressed what these months have meant to me, watching you with them, learning how to be part of their lives, seeing the incredible mother you've become." "Nah." The sincerity in his voice touched something she'd thought long buried, the part of her that had once believed in second chances, in the possibility of healing even the deepest wounds. "I do have something for you, actually," she admitted, though it wasn't planned as a gift exactly. She retrieved an envelope from her desk drawer, hesitating momentarily before handing it to him. "The children and I have been working on this for a few weeks. It was going to be a surprise for after the holidays, but maybe now is better." Dominic opened the envelope with careful precision, removing a formal document bearing the hospital's letterhead. His expression changed as he read, comprehension dawning slowly. "This is an application for permanent guardianship," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "with my name alongside yours." "Legal recognition of what's already true in practice," Olivia explained. "It gives you full parental rights and responsibilities, regardless of our personal relationship." "Liv, I don't know what to say." He looked up from the document, his eyes suspiciously bright. "This is more than I dared hope for." "The twins helped draft the terms," she added with a small smile. "Elijah was very specific about joint decision-making protocols." "Of course he was." Dominic laughed softly, though there was a catch in his voice. "What made you decide to do this now?" Olivia considered the question carefully. "Watching you during Elijah's pneumonia," she said finally. "The way you handled it, not just the practical support, but how you stayed emotionally present throughout the crisis. You didn't retreat or try to control things beyond your influence. You just—" showed up, completely. I meant what I promised them. No more running, no matter how difficult things get. I believe you, she said simply, and she realized with some surprise that she truly did. The moment between them stretched, filled with unspoken history and cautious hope. Dominic looked as though he wanted to say more, perhaps to bridge the careful distance they still maintained in their personal relationship. Before he could speak, however, Emma's voice called from upstairs. "Mom, I need water." The spell broken, they exchanged rueful smiles, parents first, always, whatever else they might be to each other. "I'll take this one," Dominic said, carefully setting aside the guardianship papers. "You've done more than your share of midnight water runs." As he headed upstairs, Olivia found herself touching the locket he'd given her, its weight reassuring against her palm. For the moments missed, and the moments to come. Perhaps that was enough for now, acknowledging the past without letting it determine the future, allowing new memories to form alongside the scars of old wounds. What's your perspective on forgiveness? Is it something we grant others for their benefit, or something we give ourselves as a path to healing? Comment below with your thoughts on whether some mistakes are too severe to forgive, or if genuine change deserves a second chance. Spring brought new beginnings in more ways than one. The twins returned to school full-time, their medical checkups reduced to monthly rather than weekly, their energy rebounding with each passing day. The garden they'd planted together flourished with new growth: strawberries for Emma, herbs for Elijah, and flowers that Olivia tended in rare moments of personal time. Dominic's official guardianship was confirmed in a brief court proceeding that felt more like a celebration than a legal formality. The judge, impressed by the twins' articulate statements about wanting their father fully recognized in their lives, commended both parents on putting their children's needs above personal history. "How does it feel to be officially dad?" Olivia asked as they left the courthouse, watching Dominic help the children into his car for their promised celebration lunch. "Like the paperwork finally caught up with reality," he replied, "but meaningful, still. Thank you for making it possible." The gratitude in his voice was genuine, lacking the entitlement that had characterized the younger man she'd married. This new Dominic, or perhaps the original version, rediscovered beneath years of ambition and fear, continued to surprise her with his humility and willingness to earn his place in their lives. Their co-parenting relationship had evolved into something neither had anticipated: a partnership built on complementary strengths and shared purpose. Where Olivia brought medical knowledge and emotional steadiness, Dominic contributed strategic thinking and boundless energy. Together, they created a stability for the twins that Olivia had once thought impossible. Yet despite their growing comfort with each other, certain boundaries remained firmly in place. Dominic continued living in the guest house, maintaining a respectful distance that honored Olivia's need for independence. Their conversations, though increasingly open and sometimes deeply personal, carefully avoided the territory of romantic reconciliation. Until Emma, with her characteristic directness, forced the issue they'd been delicately avoiding. It happened during a routine family dinner. The four of them gathered around the table Dominic had specially built to accommodate the twins' medical equipment during their early recovery. Emma, now using a wheelchair only for longer outings, was explaining her latest art project with typical enthusiasm. "It's a family portrait for the school exhibit," she announced. "But not a regular one with everyone standing together. It's more symbolic." "Symbolic? How?" Dominic asked, passing Elijah a second helping of pasta. "Well, each person is represented by something that shows who they are. Elijah is a telescope because he sees things others miss. I'm a paintbrush creating new worlds. Mom is a strong tree that holds everything together." "And what am I in this symbolic portrait?" Dominic inquired, clearly delighted by his daughter's creative approach. Emma hesitated, suddenly uncharacteristically shy. "You're the sun," she said finally, "because you came back and made everything brighter." The simple honesty of her statement created a moment of emotional silence around the table. Dominic looked touched beyond words, while Olivia felt her own eyes growing suspiciously damp. "That's beautiful, Emma," Olivia managed finally. "But there's a problem with my picture," Emma continued, a determined look entering her expression. "The sun and the tree are on opposite sides of the painting. They should be closer together. But I didn't know how to show that." Elijah, who had been listening quietly, offered his analytical perspective. "In nature, the sun nourishes the tree, and the tree grows toward the Sunday. They're connected even when they appear separate." "But why are they separate in our family?" Emma pressed, looking directly at her parents. Dad has his house and we have ours. Other kids at school have parents who live together. Some do, Olivia acknowledged carefully, but many have different arrangements, like ours. But those kids' parents don't love each other, Emma insisted. You and Dad do, I can tell. The directness of the statement created immediate tension. Dominic set down his fork, his expression carefully neutral. Emma, relationships between adults are complicated. That's what grown-ups always say when they're afraid. Emma interrupted with surprising insight. You taught me that being brave means doing what's right even when it's scary. So why aren't you being brave about loving Mom? The question hung in the air, impossible to deflect or dismiss. Elijah, ever the peacemaker despite his analytical nature, attempted to redirect the conversation. Emma, maybe this isn't something we should discuss at dinner. When should we discuss it, then? She challenged. You said yourself that the current arrangement is statistically unusual given the observable data. Dominic raised an eyebrow at his son. Did you really say that? Elijah looked slightly embarrassed. I may have conducted some research on family reunification patterns. Of course you did, Olivia murmured, feeling the conversation rapidly spinning beyond her control. My research indicates, Elijah continued with scientific precision, that when parents demonstrate positive co-parenting relationships and mutual respect after separation, reconciliation occurs in approximately 27% of cases. And what factors influence that percentage? Dominic asked, seemingly genuinely interested despite the awkwardness of the discussion. Primarily the reasons for the original separation and whether those issues have been resolved. Elijah replied promptly. Secondary factors include the presence of new partners and the length of separation. So, what you're saying, Emma interpreted for her brother, is that since Dad fixed the mistake he made by leaving, and since neither of them is dating anyone else, they should be in that 27%. That's not exactly, Elijah began. I think, Olivia interrupted gently but firmly, that this is a conversation your father and I need to have privately. While we appreciate your interest in our relationship, some decisions are for us to make without input from statistical analysis or artistic symbolism. Emma looked ready to protest, but something in Olivia's expression must have communicated the seriousness of her request. Fine. She conceded reluctantly. But just so you know, in my next art project, the sun and the tree will be together where they belong. The remainder of dinner passed with carefully neutral topics, though an undercurrent of tension remained. After the twins were settled for the evening, Elijah with a new astronomy book, Emma with her sketchpad, Olivia found Dominic on the back patio, staring into the garden with a pensive expression. I'm sorry about that, she said, taking the seat beside him. Emma has always been direct, but that was unprecedented even for her. Don't apologize, he replied. They're perceptive children who see the connection between us. It's natural they'd wonder why we maintain this careful distance. I suppose we've been avoiding this conversation. We have. He agreed. Out of respect for your boundaries, I've been careful not to push for more than friendship and co-parenting. But Liv, if you're asking what I want. He turned to face her fully, his expression open and vulnerable in a way that reminded her of earlier days. I want everything. I want to rebuild what we had, something better than what we had. I want to wake up beside you every morning and fall asleep with you every night. I want to raise our children together under one roof, as true partners in every sense. The raw honesty in his voice caught her off guard. Dominic. Let me finish, he said gently. I know I don't deserve a second chance. I know the pain I caused can't be erased by a few months of good behavior. But I also know that what's growing between us now is real and meaningful. I see it in the way we've learned to parent together, in our late-night conversations, in the moments when we forget to be careful around each other. Olivia felt her carefully constructed defenses beginning to crumble. The truth was, she had been feeling the same shift, the gradual transformation from wary co-parents to something deeper, something that echoed their original connection while incorporating the wisdom they'd each gained through pain and separation. I'm afraid, she admitted finally, not of you, exactly, but of trusting this change, of believing that the person you are now won't revert to the person who left when things become difficult again. That's fair, he acknowledged. And I can't prove what I'll do in future crises except by showing you how I handle each challenge as it comes. All I can say is that losing the chance to know our children taught me what matters in a way nothing else could have. He reached for her hand tentatively, giving her every opportunity to pull away. When she didn't, he continued, I'm not asking for an answer tonight. I'm not even asking you to consider moving in together immediately. I'm just asking if you're open to the possibility of us finding our way back to each other, one step at a time." Olivia looked down at their joined hands, familiar yet new, like so much about their relationship now. The truth was, despite her fears and lingering hurt, something had been healing between them through the shared joy and worry of parenting, through late-night conversations about the twins' progress, through the gradual rebuilding of trust in small, daily actions. "One step at a time," she agreed finally, beginning with honesty about what we're feeling instead of careful avoidance. The relief in his expression was palpable. "I can work with that. And separate living arrangements, for now at least. Of course. And we tell the children we're exploring possibilities, not making promises." He nodded his agreement to each condition. "Anything else?" Olivia considered the question seriously. "Yes, if we're going to try this, whatever this becomes, I need to know that you understand what you're choosing. My condition is in remission, but it could return. The twins will have medical needs their entire lives. There will be emergencies and setbacks and financial pressures. This isn't a movie where everyone is magically healed and lives happily ever after." "I know that," he said quietly. "I've learned that life doesn't offer perfect solutions or complete control, but it does offer the chance to face whatever comes with the people who matter most. That's what I want, the privilege of facing it together, whatever it turns out to be." The sincerity in his voice resonated with something deep within her, the part that had never stopped believing in the man he could be, even when his actions had fallen so painfully short. "Then we'll try," she said simply, "one day at a time." He smiled, the genuine joy in his expression reminding her of earlier days, the young man who had once planted a garden in their first apartment because she mentioned missing growing things. The husband who had supported her through medical school with unwavering belief in her abilities. "One day at a time," he agreed, "beginning with tomorrow." "What's tomorrow?" "Emma's art show at school. Our first public appearance as whatever we are now." Olivia laughed despite herself. "I'm sure the kindergarten art circuit will be buzzing with gossip." "Undoubtedly." His expression grew more serious. "Thank you, Liv, for even considering the possibility." "Don't thank me yet," she cautioned. "This isn't going to be simple or easy. The best things rarely are." He squeezed her hand gently. "But they're worth every effort." As they sat together in the garden they'd planted for their children, Olivia felt something unfamiliar yet recognizable: hope. Not the desperate kind that had sustained her through the twins' worst days, but something steadier and more grounded. Hope based on evidence rather than wishful thinking. Hope built on actions rather than promises. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, she realized. It was something more profound, the recognition that the man beside her now was both the person she had loved and someone entirely new, shaped by remorse and determination to become better. And perhaps she, too, was different, stronger from standing alone, wiser from navigating hardship, more capable of defining what she needed in a partnership. Whatever came next, they would face it with clear eyes and open hearts. Not naive optimism, but the hard-won wisdom of those who had lost everything and found a way to build something new from the ashes. If this story of healing and second chances has touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more stories that remind us of our capacity for growth and redemption. Share your thoughts in the comments about whether you believe people can truly change when given the opportunity to become their best selves. 1 year later, the Reed family gathered in their garden to celebrate a milestone none had taken for granted: the twins' official transition from recovering to recovered. After 18 months of treatments, tests, and careful monitoring, Dr. Kaplan had finally pronounced the words they'd scarcely dared hope for. Full remission, excellent prognosis. The small celebration included only those closest to them: Karen, who had grudgingly accepted Dominic's return to their lives; Mrs. Peterson, whose support had been invaluable during the early days of the twins' illness; and Dr. Kaplan herself, whose skilled care had guided their medical journey. To Elijah and Emma, Dominic proposed, raising his glass in a toast. "The bravest, most remarkable 9-year-olds I've ever known." And, to second chances, Emma added with characteristic directness, "For all of us." The adults exchanged smiles at her perceptiveness. The past year had indeed been about second chances in various forms: the twins' renewed health, Dominic's integration into their lives, and most recently, the careful rebuilding of Olivia and Dominic's relationship beyond co-parenting. Progress had been measured in small moments rather than grand gestures, their first tentative date 6 months after their garden conversation. Dominic's steadfast presence during a brief health scare with Emma last winter. The gradual melding of their separate living spaces as Dominic spent more nights in the main house and fewer in the guest house. They hadn't rushed or forced the evolution, allowing natural momentum to carry them forward when it felt right, pausing when old fears or hurts resurfaced. The approach had confused some outsiders who expected either immediate reconciliation or permanent separation, but it had proven perfect for their unique circumstances. After the guests departed, leaving the family to enjoy the remainder of the perfect summer evening, Olivia found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this point. From the desperate phone call that had reconnected them to this peaceful moment in their shared garden, the path had been neither straight nor easy, yet each difficult step had led inexorably here. "What are you thinking about?" Dominic asked, joining her on the porch swing while the twins played a modified version of chess on the lawn, Emma's creative interpretations of the rules driving Elijah to good-natured exasperation. "Everything," she admitted. How different things were 2 years ago. How impossible this moment would have seemed then. He nodded, understanding without further explanation. "I was just thinking about something Elijah said to me last week. We were discussing probability in his math homework, and he told me that statistically speaking, none of this should have happened." "What did you tell him?" "That statistics are useful for predicting patterns, but poor at accounting for human determination. That sometimes the least likely outcome becomes possible when people refuse to accept the expected limitations." "That?" Olivia smiled, recognizing the blend of analytical thinking and emotional insight that made Dominic such an effective father to their mathematically minded son. Spoken like a true read. "I was thinking," he said after a moment, watching the twins with evident pride, "about the guest house." "What about it?" "It's been sitting empty for months now. I thought perhaps we could renovate it as a research space for you somewhere, to review cases or write papers without interruption. Or maybe a studio for Emma's increasingly ambitious art projects." The suggestion carried weight beyond its practical considerations, an acknowledgement that his temporary living arrangements had permanently shifted, that his home was now unquestionably with them. "I think that's a wonderful idea," Olivia said. "Emma could certainly use the space for her masterpieces, and I've been wanting a quiet place to work on that research paper." "So it's settled," he concluded with satisfaction. The guest house transitions from temporary shelter to permanent family space. The symbolism wasn't lost on either of them. What had once represented careful separation now embodied integration and permanence. Another small step in their gradual journey toward wholeness. "Mom, Dad," Emma called from the lawn. "Come see what we invented. It's chess but with storytelling elements. Each piece has a backstory and motivation now," Elijah explained with the patient tone of someone making a significant concession to creative license. "Apparently the knights are secret allies of the opposing queen." "Opposing queen?" Naturally, Dominic responded with perfect seriousness. Strategic complexity through character development. As they joined their children on the lawn, learning the intricate rules of this new hybrid game, Olivia felt a profound sense of rightness settle over her. This was what healing looked like, not the absence of scars, but the creation of something beautiful and meaningful that incorporated rather than erased the painful journey. Later that evening, after the twins were asleep, Dominic found Olivia in their bedroom, looking through old photographs she'd recently rediscovered during spring cleaning. "Find anything interesting?" he asked, sitting beside her on the edge of the bed. "Our wedding photos," she said, showing him the album she hadn't opened in years. "We were so young." He studied the images of their younger selves, hopeful, naive, unaware of the challenges that would test their vows beyond breaking. "We had no idea what was coming." "No," she agreed, "but I'm not sure it would have helped if we had. Some lessons can only be learned through experience. Like what it truly means to stand by someone through sickness and health," he suggested quietly. "Yes, among others." They sat together in comfortable silence, turning pages that documented the beginning of a journey neither could have predicted. When they reached the end of the album, Dominic closed it gently and set it aside. "I've been thinking about something," he said, an uncharacteristic hesitation in his voice. "It's been on my mind for a while, but I wasn't sure when the right moment might be." Olivia recognized the seriousness in his tone. "What is it?" "Our vows," he said simply. "The ones I broke. I've been wondering if you might consider making new ones someday. Not to erase or replace what happened, but to acknowledge who we are now and what we've learned." The question took her by surprise, though perhaps it shouldn't have. Their relationship had been steadily deepening, the artificial barriers between co-parents and partners gradually dissolving as trust rebuilt itself through consistent action rather than empty promises. "Are you proposing?" she asked, wanting clarity. "Not exactly," he replied thoughtfully. "Or at least, not in the traditional sense of rushing toward a specific date or ceremony. I'm asking if you're open to the idea of recommitting to each other formally, at some point in whatever way feels meaningful to us now, as the people we've become." The distinction resonated with Olivia. This wasn't about reclaiming the past or pretending the break had never occurred. It was about honoring the difficult journey that had transformed them both, about making conscious choices based on hard-won wisdom rather than youthful idealism. "I think," she said carefully, "that someday, when it feels completely right for both of us, I would welcome the chance to make promises we both understand more deeply now." The joy that spread across his face was tempered with something deeper, not just happiness but profound gratitude for the opportunity neither had expected to receive. "No rush," he assured her. "We have time." "We do," she agreed. "And we have something else we didn't have before." "What's that?" "Experience," she said simply. "We know exactly what we're promising now. We've seen the worst and chosen to build something better." "One." He nodded, understanding precisely what she meant. "Not despite our history, but because of it." "Exactly." As they prepared for sleep in the room they now shared without question or hesitation, Olivia reflected on the symmetry of their journey, how the greatest pain of her life had eventually led to its greatest healing, how the man who had once broken her heart had become instrumental in helping it mend. It wasn't a fairy tale ending where all damage disappeared as if it had never occurred. It was something more honest and ultimately more meaningful, a story of genuine growth, of hard lessons learned, of forgiveness offered not cheaply but as the result of demonstrated change. In the darkness, Dominic's voice came softly. "Thank you." "For what?" "For giving me the chance to become someone worthy of you and the twins. For seeing the possibility of change when you had every reason to believe otherwise." Olivia reached for his hand in the darkness, finding it with the familiarity that comes only through time and intimacy. "Thank you for proving that sometimes the hardest changes are also the most profound." As sleep approached, Olivia's thoughts drifted to the locket. Dominic had given her that Christmas, the one she now wore daily, a tangible reminder of their unique journey. For the moments missed and the moments to come. They had missed so much, it was true. But what lay ahead, the moments they would share as their children grew, as their relationship continued to evolve. As they faced whatever challenges and joys awaited, those moments would be approached with the wisdom only difficulty could teach. Not every broken relationship deserves or achieves reconciliation. Not every mistake can or should be forgiven. But sometimes, when genuine remorse meets determined growth, when love proves stronger than pride or fear, something extraordinary becomes possible, not the restoration of what was lost, but the creation of something entirely new and unexpectedly beautiful. For Dominic and Olivia Reed, the last bridge home hadn't led back to where they started, but forward to a place they couldn't have reached without the difficult journey between. A place where love wasn't blind optimism but clear-eyed choice, where commitment wasn't naive promise but tested resolve, where family wasn't automatic right but precious privilege. As the household settled into peaceful slumber, 2 healing children and 2 healing adults under one roof, the future stretched before them, not as guaranteed happiness, but as the opportunity to face whatever came together, stronger for having been broken, wiser for having lost their way, and profoundly grateful for the second chance they'd never expected to receive. True healing isn't about erasing the past or pretending the pain never happened. It's about building something meaningful from the broken pieces, something that honors the scars while refusing to be defined by them. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe for more narratives that explore the depth of human resilience and our capacity for transformation. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments about second chances, and whether you believe that genuine change deserves forgiveness.